Today we've got something a little different, and this is a tube type Magnavox AM radio, or excuse me, AM FM radio. This was probably one of their last gasps for tube type equipment. I would assume that because there's the next model line up from this is solid state, that this was probably from the late 60s, mid to late 60s, when solid state was really starting to begin. As you can see, it's in, I don't know, average condition. The wood case is actually pretty nice. There's a few scuffs and these buttons. And I've seen this on every example of this radio, that these buttons are never all quite the straightest. I'm not entirely sure what that's about, but we'll fix that. And we're going to test it. We'll put it on the Variac. We'll watch the current consumption. We'll bring it right up. Looks like our clock is running, which is good. Needs a new bulb. Oh, I hear something. There we go. So that's tone. Let's see what we got happening here. Sounds like it's alive. Sounds like we have a voice coil rub. A little bit of a rub there. We can fix that. Well, the part that I expected it not to work is actually working. Needs help, that's for sure.
Most battle-proven firearms.
Says Trump can defeat Hillary, but he must fight. It is
you want.
61.
It's a very
AM is nice and alive. It sounds
screw
good.
it up.
Yeah, the speaker definitely needs help. This pull switch has no real effect. Actually, the switch is happening in this, and as you can hear, the hum in the background is not that bad. That's the first time I've ever actually got that to work. Now, I tested this before this video. Curious if this timer works. This whole mechanism in here needs lubricated like nothing. Like no tomorrow. But switch works.
That forecast on Monday, warm, humid, some sun, high in the mid-80s.
Charleston's oldies station, 95.3 and 68 KAZ.
Polka Heritage Day is Saturday.
So it sounds good, that's for sure. Let's go ahead and get the back whipped off of this and see what's going on with the filter caps and see what we got to see what other caps we might have to replace as well. I assume there's probably going to be several. I've got the back removed and realized that one of the wires on the antenna is broken. It might account on the dodgy performance on FM. You can see the loop antenna was reattached at some point. I don't know where it would have originally connected, but we'll see what I'll do about that. You can see the clock mechanism over here. There's the speaker, pretty big for the radio size. I would have fully expected a radio this size to have only a 4-inch speaker inside of it. And as you can see, there's been a repair done. Looks like the original filter capacitor is still there, but it looks like someone might or might not have disconnected one section of it and placed this new electrolytic in its place, or bridged across one of the sections. That's a very strange behavior that they exhibited when they repaired this. Let's see what exactly is going on. I'm going to rip it all out anyways. This is not how you do this. You know what that means, right? If this is the correct value, it's one less electrolytic capacitor that I've got to find. Because I'll just replace all the sections. But seeing as it still has a hum, this probably only barely repaired it. And they left some pretty good lead length on there, so I can use that. See if I can get this tape off. Here's the modern replacement capacitor. 100 microfarad at 200 volts, 105C, perfectly usable. The original filter capacitor looks to be a 70 microfarad at 175 volts, a 50 microfarad at 150 volts, and a 30 microfarad at 150 volts. I should be able to find those values pretty quickly. It's interesting to see that someone, looks like they bridged, let's see, the positive, the negative of this is on A, so that's the negative common terminal there. It looks like terminal C, yep, the 70 microfarad section, they have this 100 bridged right across it, and that's a very flawed manner of repairing this radio, because if that section went open, there's still a chance that the other two are not far behind, and additionally, this could short. So got a free electrolytic out of the deal. And for the amount of money I paid on this, it was worth it. So let me get that unsoldered, and we will take the radio out. I believe the face, the way this is built, looks like the face of it comes out the forward and gives you direct access to this board. See what happens. We are going to use the 100 microfarad capacitor for the 70 microfarad section. The 50 microfarad section will be replaced with a 68, and the 30 will be replaced with a 47. These are all caps that I've pulled out of other items. Literally, you just witnessed this one being pulled here, and it cost me nothing. As you can see, strange manufacturing process here. There's not very many wax caps. Actually, I don't see a single one, except for one over here, which that's one of those later brown ones. They don't really ever seem to be real troublesome. I doubt that there's any in the FM front end right here. Looks like a 1963 date code. I'm also seeing a chassis number and a 1964 year. Here's that electrolytic. It looks like it has all original tubes, which is good. I like that this tube over here is all by itself. It's a neat design, that's for sure. Let's get this cap slurped out of there, and then we'll measure it. See what each section measures at. I wanted to make one note to myself and to anyone else who works on this model of radio. The silk screening on the top of the board absolutely, for some reason, does not freaking correlate to the pins on the bottom of the capacitor. See, it says A, B, C, and I guess there's a D here. Can't see it because there's a stain on here. Well, this capacitor was not positioned in that manner. There is an A, B, C, D on this guy, but that's not the way it was installed. Before I unsoldered it, I actually went through and looked down here and marked it. I didn't have a Sharpie or anything to write it on there, but I did take the time to carve the A, B, and the C, and the D is down there. A is your negative, as indicated here, and you can just look at the traces and see, you know, A runs off to ground. Looking at this capacitor, it tells you the values. Like I said, I have 100 microfarad for the 70. I probably could have used that 68 that I have, but with the choice of capacitors that I have available to me, that wouldn't be my first choice. So I used a 100. I used a 68 on the 50, and I used a 47 for the 30. Little extra capacitance there, that will not hurt anything. The biggest thing here is to try to choose a capacitor that is the same or higher voltage DC rating. Now this is probably an 85 degree C capacitor. All the ones that I'm using appear to be 105C. That's the temperature that they're rated to operate, maximum temperature that they will function before venting. This is a 105, and this one's I think is a 105 as well. Yep, so there you go. So let me go ahead and get these caps soldered in, and then I'll measure the old capacitor and see what exactly was going on. Also, upon more closer look, I do see what looks to be like a small capacitor down in there. We'll see what happens. I'll get a flashlight up in there and we'll see what that is. It's probably a small electrolytic. Here's a little bit of a tip that I want to offer. If you don't have heat shrink tubing a certain diameter, you can use the outer sheathing or coating of a wire. And it has to be big enough for it to slip over the leads easily. As you can see, it makes a very nice appearance. Here's the finished work. You can see my solder joints here and the way I installed them. All the grounds or negatives connecting to that first point, and then the positives of each capacitor reaching out to the individual sections. I was able to extend the lead on this 47 microfarad capacitor here. I picked a different one than the first one I picked because the leads were so short on that first one, and I actually like this axial lead capacitor a little bit better. It's much higher quality and also higher voltage like the rest of them. And as you can see, that part of the repair is finished. Let's put this radio through a little bit of a test real quick and see where that gets us. And then after that, we'll replace that 2 microfarad capacitor that we saw back over there behind the IF can over there. I've already got its replacement right here. Still a little bit of hum there. That's kind of strange. But it's better, that's for sure. Here's the performance of the radio. Got it all turned on and warmed up. There's absolutely no hum. The clock mechanism works well, and the alarm function also works.
105.
The sensitivity is pretty good. Out of probably out of a scale of 1 to 10, I'd probably give it a 6. And that's just with a small wire attached to the antenna there. Nothing real special. Let's try AM. AM is definitely, this radio performs well. Sounds good. Could use a little bit more treble. I might modify the speaker situation. I have a small piezo element sometimes that I add. I just glue it to behind the grill. They're flat enough to where they'll fit in front of the speaker, and they operate from about 4 kilohertz and up, and it adds a little bit of a sparkle to the sound. I might actually make a video on that, but I don't know if I'll even mess with that because it does sound good enough already. It's just it lacks treble a little bit, but that's just the way these early radios were. It's just the speaker, not the radio. Still sounds good.
We hope that leads to a happier family.
Okay. Because
Free.
backed off of the birther thing. We knew about the guy.
What I laid out, and let me encourage her.
Garoppolo has well, and I was so dismissed by this person who is
October 1st and 6th, Route 8 at 8 p.m. and October 2nd at 2 p.m. in the WVSU Capitol Center Theater in Charleston. Tickets are $8 students and seniors, $15.
Great to be back. Huge day tomorrow. Not only with debate reacts, but also before a federal appeals court on the Clean Power Plan. West Virginia Attorney General Patrick Marcy's next.
the Blitz Podcast with Garrett Cohen and Fred Persinger is your weekly update of high school football throughout West Virginia.
A little bit of a rub there. We can fix that. Well, the part that I expected it not to work is actually working. Needs help, that's for sure.
World's most battle-proven firearms.
Says Trump can defeat Hillary, but he must fight. It is
You want.
There we go, so that's tone. Let's see what we got happening here. Sounds like it's alive. Sounds like we have a voice coil rub. Today we've got something a little different, and this is a tube type Magnavox AM radio, or excuse me, AM FM radio. This was probably one of their last gasps for tube type equipment. I would assume that because there's the next model line up from this is solid state, that this was probably from the late 60s, mid to late 60s, when solid state was really starting to begin. As you can see, it's in, I don't know, average condition. The wood case is actually pretty nice. There's a few.
61. It's a very.
AM is nice and alive. It sounds
Screw
good.
it up.
Yeah, the speaker definitely needs help. This pull switch has no real effect. Actually, the switch is happening in this, and as you can hear, the hum in the background is not that bad. Few scuffs and these buttons, and I've seen this on every example of this radio, that these buttons are never all quite the straightest. I'm not entirely sure what that's about, but we'll fix that. And we're going to test it. We'll put it on the Variac. Watch the current consumption. We'll bring it right up. Looks like our clock is running, which is good. Needs a new bulb. Oh, I hear something.